And the wood element is represented in the springtime. And so in the springtime is actually when we had this pandemic. And I'm gonna go in a little bit about the wood element, and then we're gonna do some meditation. And the meditation is really gonna be around us tapping in to our intuitive resources. There are 5 different clairs, actually 4 different clairs. We're gonna talk a little bit about them. I am not super advanced in all of them, but all of us have some development or some disposition to one of the clairs. So we're gonna go into those as well a little bit. And then I'm hoping to leave you all with some tools, some rituals that you all can do on your own, some homework for yourselves if you all find it useful. All right? Cool. And then at some point, like during through the whole thing, we'll stop, we'll talk, we'll ask questions. If you all have any questions, if you want to write down anything, write it down. But yeah, the pandemic came, as you all know, with an extended time on our devices. Like all of our activities just all of a sudden turned online. And with that, there was kind of some adverse effects of this technology that we found arising. And that's what this discussion is kind of framed around, and how we can now start to address the things that came up, address specifically the emotions, and be able to assimilate everything in to better access our internal resources, right? And really the significance of this quarantine. I want to talk about that. So the significance of the quarantine and utilizing this time to retreat. So for me, my experience of it is it's been a real kind of push-pull of wanting to be out there, wanting to be out in the world, and then at the same time wanting to just retreat and wanting to be inside. And at the same time wanting to be out there. And I believe a lot of that was from seeing what was online, seeing what was being told to me, seeing what people were sharing, and not having enough time with other people, wanting to connect, like being at home all the time and not having any friends that I can actually see in the flesh to bounce ideas off of. So, it was a special time to look within and grow and really look at my behaviors and see what came up. Even though I have a family, I have 2 sons, for y'all that don't know, they're here making noise, and now a daughter, and 2 teenage sons, and my wife, and we all were kind of together, which was a beautiful thing. It was a lovely thing because our lives before the pandemic were overscheduled, too busy, too many things going on to actually get the quality time of the pandemic together, as I imagine some of yours were. And it has been such an incredible time. It has been such a special time and a challenging time for us to be together. But I mean, for all of us, really, I think this is a great chance to speak of collective trauma, or as a society, how we experience collective trauma. And we're gonna get a little into that later. Speaking about purpose, when we're living in our purpose, we are happy. Everything runs smoothly when we're totally grounded in our purpose. And I think we know this because things run smoothly. And even though there's challenges, things move in a way that are equanimous. However, some of us might be disconnected from our purpose. And this can actually occur through trauma, through experiencing events that leave a lasting effect on us. And that's how I want to frame trauma, because it's a word that's kind of thrown around a lot. But for me, that frame of an experience that lasts, that leaves a lasting effect on us, and that kind of clouds our way of receiving, right? So the acupuncture meridians in the body are all about receiving and exchanging energy with the external world. Energy coming in and energy going out. And when we experience trauma, we are affected on a level of being able to sincerely receive and being able to sincerely have an exchange with the world. And for much of us, that exchange is embedded in our purpose. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and how we can do certain things in our lives to reconnect with our purpose. Y'all following me so far? Good? Good? Bless. All right, so in these times, it is important that we have self-cultivation practices. You know, what's great about Synergy and what they're doing is that they're featuring different practices, yoga. Synergy itself is an incredible partner yoga that I love and really enjoy. Francisco is doing these Thai massage retreats and trainings, and there's yoga, and there's qigong, and there's tai chi. All these are all practices that we can use to better know ourselves. These practices, we can begin to observe our behaviors with a different perspective, like kind of take a distance from them and not so be attached to what comes up with our minds, with our patterns. And this is important. I think we have to reassess ourselves frequently, all the time, to keep ourselves on track, especially with what it is that we are following through with here on Earth, on our purpose. And you know, many of us base our behaviors off of teachers and teachings, scriptures. These are our guideposts, essentially. And being that these are our guideposts, we have some model. We have some way of modeling ourselves. And these determine, hopefully, how we engage in the world, right? Because sometimes, a friend of mine was talking about how we can read all the books. We can read all these books on this and that and all these things, but how much of it have we assimilated into our being? How much of that stuff have we absorbed, not just absorbed here, but here in our heart, right? We want to be able to assimilate. We want to be able to assimilate what we're hearing, what is being spoken to us, and how we can then bring it into our lives, into our relationships. And I think that's where we can see the transformation happening. We see the transformation happening in our relationships. Not just in our relationships, but our relationship to ourselves, right? Being able to be with ourselves. And that was, I think, one of the largest aspects of this quarantine, right? Being with ourselves. You know, so viruses, just to talk a little about COVID, viruses bring about change. That is their essential function, is to bring about change, and they demand us to take action. They force us to evolve and grow and to change what we're doing. You know, there's a popular opinion out there that that we aren't the agency of our destiny, and so many more of us are seeing that we are the agency of our destiny. This is what we're hearing on Synergy Sangha, on everyone that has started to speak up in this time. And this time has been about that, speaking up and intuition. But that's only if we look at it from a place of responsibility, right? Because a large part of our DNA is actually virus material. It's virus material that our immune system has created antibodies for. But within that antibody is a copy of the virus. But the antibody is how we can then respond to it. So responsibility, when I speak about responsibility, it's exactly that. If you look at the word itself, responsibility, the ability to respond is in there. Viruses are a catalyst in our DNA's growth and our DNA's response system. So as we stepped into a quarantine, we entered into a time of uncertainty. And uncertainty is the beginning of change. It's the beginning of change. And the ability to sit in uncertainty is very challenging for some of us. You know, people want their lives to be, people want to be able to control their lives. People want to be able to know what is going to happen next, what is coming next, what they're supposed to do with themselves. And the importance of being able to sit with uncertainty is a skill, you know, because you're sitting with these unanswerable questions and setting aside the urge for the answer. And today, it seems as if it's so important for me are the questions, because the questions stimulate our curiosity. And being able to not answer them and sit in the question and sit with them and listen to what comes out of that question is our response system, right? Not all of us will respond like this, but many of us want to. And that's, you know, and that was the challenge of this time, was learning how to set aside the answers and just watch and wait. You know, and there was something, it was something for all of us that occurred with the quarantine, was that we were sitting and waiting. We were waiting. We wanted to know what was going to be the next thing, as if something was being withheld, you know, and the days evolve into weeks and weeks into months. It's been what, 4 months now? Yeah, about that. It's been about 4 months, right? 4 months. And we're still kind of like, everyone wants to know, like, what is happening? What's the next thing? And because of that, we are super on our devices. We're on the device. We're trying to find out. We're listening to news, and all of these things are influencing us. We were taking off of our norm, off of our normal circuit, off of our normal routines. You know, new beginnings don't rush to make themselves known. They come in a little bit by little bit, like a trickle, and then it turns into a stream. And then before we know it, we're in the river. And it took a while for us to realize that there was no going back. So many of us wanted to go back to what things were. You know, one part of me is still holding on to that, wanting to go back to what things were. You know, we all craved normal, at least some of us. I'm sure some of us did. Deep down inside, you know, we knew that this wasn't possible. And a big thing, a big element that affected all of us within this is that there was a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear injected into our lives through the media. Besides just the unknown and the uncertainty, there was a lot of fear that we were having to just stomach. And the fear was almost insidious, you know, because if it was just about us not getting this virus, there was no reason for that amount of fear to be instilled in our system. And it got to the point where it started to define our actions, you know, and obviously some people were more affected by it than others. To this day, you know, we walk out and we see people like not wearing masks and others really taking it seriously. You know, the culture of fear is something that we've been living with for the last 4 months. We've been living with this culture of fear. So many of us have questioned it, and when is it going to, how long is it going to last? When is this going to end? And for those of us with past trauma, we're more susceptible to this fear. You know, any pre-existing trauma, if not properly addressed, will make someone more vulnerable to these other things, you know. And so, again, this is this is a time for us to really start looking at all of these aspects of ourselves and taking the time to sit with ourselves and really examine these fears and these emotions that come up. And there are many ways of expressing love, but one of the most common for many people is just being with yourself, being with one another, just the simple presence of being with someone. And that's what we can give most to ourselves, to our families, is that undisturbed attention. And unfortunately, with these, it becomes a little hard. It becomes a little hard to be totally present when you're thinking, when one part of you is out there. Like, our lives are really fragmented. You know, we have this life, we have our work life, we have our family life, we have our, whatever you love to do, maybe your yoga life, maybe, and we want to incorporate all of them. We want to be the same person. We would like to be, at least, accepted in all these areas of ourselves and not live so fragmentedly. And this presence with ourselves, comes with its challenges. When you stop, we can liken ourselves to like a pot, that's cooking, and everything in the pot is all of our ingredients, all the different aspects of ourselves. And with activity is us stirring up the pot. Stirring, right? And then when you stop stirring, everything kind of settles, and that's when things start to reveal themselves. So this pause in time to reflect away from our daily grind is what so many of us had desired on a level, but we weren't really ready for it. We weren't really equipped, and we weren't equipped to be taking in all this information. We just weren't equipped for it, I want to share some. I was putting together this here. Maybe y'all can. I'm not exactly sure what y'all can see. But
we can see. We can.
You saw. Y'all saw George Costanza?
Yeah, we saw him sitting on the couch eating some popcorn.
Exactly. So, that was us. We start to spend a lot of time in front of the television, in front of our laptops, and, eating up all the media and taking it all in. And it was what we had to do. Our desire to go out and express ourselves, to be with others, was stifled. So it was just the natural other avenue was then to sit in front of a television and try to get something. And this aspect of, or this ability to keep going forward versus resting, retreating and rejuvenating, is an aspect of the wood element. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the wood later. The wood is a part of the 5 element system. And as I was talking about before, how it represented the springtime, which was the time of the pandemic. And so coming back, with all the time we were spending on our devices, I honestly don't think that we were able, that we had the capability to really process it all. I don't think that we had the capacity for it. Our nervous systems didn't. There was so much coming in all the time, and we were on it all the time, swiping, going to this, hearing about that. And it's like, it can kind of be likened to as if you went to the store and just bought everything, how many of us are asking ourselves, what is it? If you were to take in the amount of media the same way we take in food, you could almost say that we were on a binge, right? We were just binging all of this information. And we didn't have enough resources to really deal with it. And so for those of us who have children, as I was telling you, I have 2, now 3. I believe that our children, however, have a different experience of technology as they're growing up with it. You know, they came up with it, and so their response system is very different than ours. And I want to talk a little bit about children. I know that some of us have children here, and how they are dealing with it compared to how we're dealing with it. And if our purpose is aligned, if what we have to do in this world is partly aligned with being online, which, I mean, obviously we have to use computers, they're a tool. We have to, I mean, this wouldn't even be possible, right? I wouldn't have been able to talk to you all if not without it. But how do we put it into balance? How do we start balancing it out so that we're not going extra with it? Because some of our purpose is helping others. Some of us, that's what our purpose is. And others, this incarnation is to be doing work on computers. But how will we know? How will we know what our purpose is if there is already a culture that is set around this type of technology? And when we speak of technology, this is a man-made technology that we're dealing with, but we also have these facets of technology that within our DNA, we have been through many years, whatever our ancestral lineage is, we have some connection to another technology, spiritual technologies, you can say. And many of these spiritual technologies were connected in some aspect to nature. Many of them were nature-based. So we have this DNA within us. How do we then start to re-access this? And finding our purpose in this time, I believe it is kind of key to be able to take away or step away from technology in order to really take it all in. Take it all in, not take on what the technology is putting us on, but what is within us? What is our inner guidance systems telling us? So I want to pause right there because I know that was a lot. And I want to open up for you all to ask any questions if you all want to unmute yourself, if you have a question, or if you have something, if not a question, but something to contribute before I start discussing some of the other things, if anything came up for you all.
Hey, brother, I'd like to know, like, with all the sharing, you just did, like, for yourself, like what you've been doing on a daily to kind of keep yourself fresh and awake during these times.
Yeah. So for me, because I've had a little bit more time than I usually would, not being able to practice acupuncture in the clinic, I've been taking more time to sit in the morning. I sit mainly in the morning, and if I can, in the evening. And I was blessed because I went up for the quarantine to my wife's family's house, which is in, you could kind of say, in the woods. It's actually right by the ocean. And so I spent a lot of time in nature. I was spending a lot of time around trees, around ocean, seeing a lot of different animals. And the internet there was terrible. So we literally couldn't even download a movie half the time. It was so hard. So it was a refreshing break from it all. And I spent time sitting with myself, sitting in nature, observing the ocean, spent a lot of time observing nature. I spent a lot of time with my children, with the fam. But the time that was spent with the elements for me was almost the most significant, because I live in the city. I live in New York, as you all know. And there was certain, I have no other way of describing it, but there were certain entities that made themselves present with being in that space, with being in a space of seeing things grow, especially in the springtime. When I arrived, there was no leaves on the trees. And by the time I left, we were covered in leaves. All the trees were covered in leaves. We saw things growing. We saw things flowering. So yeah, I spent a lot of time up there developing some insight. Any other questions, y'all? I have so much to rant about. Sorry, to share. I can keep going. No? All right, I ain't gonna call anybody out. So yeah.
I
We all
have
know.
a question.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I know you're a teacher, you know, you love sharing the arts, you know, like, you know, just meeting like capoeira, acupuncture, like wherever we go, you're bringing your needles, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're always taking care. And were you doing a lot of that at home, or like, you know, or have you been also like doing some online? Have you been doing?
Yes. Yes, I have been. So I have a Qigong class with at Yoga Tribe Brooklyn, and the Qigong class went through the whole time. Every Wednesday and Friday morning, I was doing Qigong, and we were training capoeira for a little bit, but it was kind of hard. You
Yeah.
know, I must say, in general, being with people for me is very energizing. Being with other people and practicing, and so the shift from being with other people to then doing it at home on a Zoom and not being with people is a huge difference, if you will, with energy and being able to connect. So our capoeira classes happened for a little bit and then they kind of petered away, but we kept in contact and we're going to get them going again. And I know, Francisco, you've been teaching, right?
Yeah, I've been teaching. I'm actually doing, I mean, a lot of this is like pushing beyond my comfort, you know,
Yeah.
like it's like, okay, what do I do? Because I want to keep things going, you know, I'm not going to let something like this kind of um, stop me from sharing my dharma, you know, my work. And
Yes.
so I did a couple of like online Thai massage workshops, which was really weird because I had like the laptop up here trying to show what I'm doing with my elbow
Mm-hmm.
down here.
Yep.
And now in August we're actually doing like an online Thai massage course. Um, so a lot of it is just stepping into the unknown, you know, and
Yep.
and uh and community's been a big help for that. Like you said, like being able to like bounce ideas with your friends and,
Yep.
you know, keep flowing.
Totally. Yeah. And that goes back to that kind of push pull, like yin yang energy of this. And so spring,
The wood that you're talking
the
about.
wood, exactly. So wood is all about back and forth. um it's 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 kind of in between winter and summer, and so it's got this energy of going back and forth. And I actually have
Cool.
a slide here that I wanted to share with you all so we can look at it. As a matter of fact, I think this is a great time to pivot into the 5-element system. Hold on, how do I do this? Are you all seeing the screen, or did I lose you all?
Just go. You need to share on the bottom.
Right, I'm gonna share it. All right, so I go share screen. Okay. Bear with me, y'all.
Take your time.
Pulling it up.
There we go.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I gotta go into here. Oh, all right,
Boom.
there we go. Boom.
That's
All right,
good.
so here we go. So this is the 5-element system. And for those who do not know it or aren't familiar with it, this is, you all can see my cursor. This here is a constructive cycle, right? So we have the constructive cycle, which is wood burns fire, fire makes earth, earth makes metal, metal makes water, metal melts to liquid, water feeds wood. So this is the constructive cycle, right? And in Chinese medicine, this concept of the 5 phases of this 5-phase system is a phenomenon in nature and in every aspect, right, of nature. It's like a sequence of shifts along everything. You can see it. We see it in the weather. This system is actually used for feng shui. It's used to determine weather patterns. It's used in astrology. It's quite a deep system. I can't explain the entire thing now, but we could say that there are 5 types of qi between heaven and earth. And this sequence is a phenomenon of it. And you know, the 5 types of qi exist in all the phenomenon of living as well, of our behaviors and the seasons. So the wood is spring, the summer is fire. Earth represents this kind of in-between zone. So between wood and fire, there's earth. Between every season, earth is present. Earth is the center. Between summer and autumn, there's earth. Between autumn and winter, earth is where everything kind of goes back to, right? So the 5-element system is quite profound. We can't totally go into it right now, but I want to show the 12 primary channels. So these channels run along the body, as you can see here. The whole entire body is zoned out according to these meridians, and they represent this, you know, the fact that life is about survival, right? We got to eat, we got to digest, we got to eliminate and sleep. And these functions are all assisted by the lung and large intestine, which represent the metal element. So going back, that represents the metal element, right? This one right here. And earth represents digestion. Earth is the spleen and the stomach. And interaction is mediated by the second trinity. The second trinity is heart and small intestine, and the bladder and the kidneys, and also the wood element. All right. And right here, I wanted to share with you all this clock. This is the clock of Chinese medicine. Each organ has 2 hours. Each organ has 2 hours, and each organ during those 2 hours is activated, and also as well at rest. So the yin and yang of those 2 organs are being activated, energized, you could say. And with this organ system, we use this to figure out where people's imbalances are, and what time might be the best to address certain issues that are coming up. So differentiation occurs where we habituate, right, and form judgments and separate ourselves from the many aspects of the world, right? And things we want to enjoy and cultivate and begin to relinquish control of that, which we recognize we can. These are regulated by, I didn't tell you these other 2 elements, these right here, the pericardium and the triple burner, and the gallbladder and liver. Gallbladder and liver are the time that we are going to go a little bit more into right now, the wood phase. I would like to talk about all of them, and maybe we can delve a little bit more into all of them, but I just want to say that this explanation of the elements that I'm giving is something a little different from the norm. And there's many different forms. Within Chinese medicine, there's many different philosophies, and there's many different ways of looking at this system. So my lineage is under the Shen Hammer lineage and also under Kiko Matsumoto, Japanese acupuncture, and TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. So traditionally, the wood phase is associated with the springtime and these energies of birth and growth. And it's a time of blossoming. It's a blossoming of new life after the respite of the winter. So things are coming back to life. It is associated with creativity, birth of new ideas, and the unfolding of one's potential as its energies allow for the free flow of expression. So this part is what I want you all to kind of sit with, is the unfolding of one's potential as its energies allow for the free flow of expression. The liver channel is all about the free flow of chi, about things flowing smoothly in our lives. And this free flow of chi, how does it present it? Is that things move smoothly in life. Things move without any obstacles. And the liver is in charge of that. The emotion associated with the wood, with the liver and the gallbladder, because there's two, let me be clear, is that there's two emotions with every element. So the wood phase has two emotions and two organs, liver and gallbladder. Liver is the yin element. Gallbladder is the yang element of wood. Is the yang aspect of wood, sorry, and the yin element is with the liver. The emotion associated with the wood phase is anger, and also includes restlessness and frustration, irritability and frustration. And so this year, y'all, the year that we are in is the metal rat. The metal rat year started in February. You know, the Chinese New Year is different than ours. It's governed by the moon. It's a lunar calendar. And metal rat year started in February. The metal element is about exactness. Think about metal. Metal is sharp, it cuts, and it is very much about accuracy. So going back here, I want you all to see that this, hold up. My mouse acting weird. Mouse acting funny. So look, right here, metal cuts wood. Metal chops wood. And this cycle here, so this one on the outside is the constructive cycle, right? But this one here is the controlling cycle. So metal cuts wood, wood draws essence from earth. And we see that, right? We see that with the trees, how the wood controls the earth. Earth destroys water, it soaks it up, turns it into mud, and water extinguishes fire. And then fire melts metal. But I want to talk a little bit more about this aspect of the metal cutting the wood. So being that this was, so every element, let me explain real quick, is that every element has these controlling and constructive aspects of it. And so we have to keep these in mind. We have to keep these in mind when we think about them. Because this year being the metal rat, right, began in February, the time of wood. Metal cuts wood. So metal has an oppressive action on wood. And so this is what we saw occurring at this time of the pandemic, which is a kind of oppression, a kind of repression of our ability to express ourselves, of our ability to go out and be in the world and really live up to our potential. And the wood phase is all about the free flow. It's all about expressing oneself, you know, and living towards your goal. So feeling blocked in this way causes mental discomfort and irritation. And this is what we saw. This is what we saw occurring with our pandemic. And we also saw a kind of back and forth, which we spoke about before. And we could see that we can see that actually within the channel itself. You see, so this is right here where I'm running my cursor along is the gallbladder channel. And so you see the gallbladder channel, the way it moves is kind of back and forth. And it has its own virtues because of its ability to move this way. There's a virtue of flexibility. There's a virtue of being able to bend and twist to be able to find what the answer is. Gallbladder is all about decision making, and the liver aspect is all about planning. The liver is about planning, but the planning aspect comes after the decision making. All right, so we want to be clear with that. I want to show you all here this metaphor wheel, and along the first ring here is wood, just what we're talking about. Wood, and look what we have here. The actual world view, the faith aspect of wood is intuitive, projective. You all following me? So this aspect of ourselves in wood is about intuition. Wood is all about expanding and growing, pushing through. As a matter of fact, this is why wood needs metal to chop it. Because if you think of a tree that is growing that way, right? Here, I got this picture of the tree. You see these branches, right? These branches growing and putting their energy into all these different aspects of themselves. I liken myself, if you know me, you know that I do many different things. And some people would say, oh, jack of all trades, master of nothing. But I don't like that. I actually think, for me, I study the many to understand the one, right? Because a part of my purpose, or at least what I'm enamored by, is the interconnectedness of everything. Everything is interconnected. But this aspect of wood, to grow and to continue to make branches, is something that needs to be regulated in life. Because if you are in this aspect of wood where you have this great big imagination and you keep growing and you keep growing different branches, you may not be able to fully manifest all of these aspects of yourself. So the metal aspect is needed. Metal needs to chop wood. We see with apple trees in orchards, if you just let them do their thing, they actually will split in half if you let them grow too much. That's why they have to be pruned. So metal in its balanced state is regulating, helping us regulate our imagination. However, what we saw with the pandemic was a kind of an exaggeration. We saw an exaggeration of that. And so we see here, going back to this aspect of wood, right? The metaphor wheel, this is wood. This whole green bar represents wood. Birth, ligaments, shouting, anger. The taste is sour. The emotion is anger. The sound is shouting. There's a lot of shouting. There's a lot of shouting this spring. The emotion is sour. Sorry, the taste. The taste is sour. The odor is rancid. Wind. Wind is the climate of wood. And we saw a lot of wind. We saw a lot of things moving. We saw a delayed, in my opinion, a very delayed spring. It took a long time for it to come about. And this is a little bit of, going back here, you see this, this is just some more aspects of wood, right? The colors, the orifice, anger, frustration. Also, the yang emotion of wood is benevolence, kindness, and generosity. And again, is curiosity. I wanted to offer you all that. Because speaking of being able to respond, right? How we respond energetically to things. So if you can think about what we were facing and what we encountered in the springtime, is that we encountered a lot of anger. We encountered a lot of people speaking up in ways that weren't healthy. And you cannot find a solution for anything using the same energy that created it, right? So using anger to combat anger just doesn't work. You'll just have two heads butting like this. So in the Chinese system, what they're saying is to use curiosity. So to respond energetically to the yin aspect of wood, the imbalance aspect of anger, of this emotion, anger, is to meet it with curiosity, is to meet and ask questions. Well, why is it that you feel that way? What is that all about? You know, what is coming up from you? The liver is the planner, and it's equipped with a vision for the future, right? The wood element. And the gallbladder is the decision maker. In Chinese medicine, as I was saying before, the decision making should precede planning, right? Before you do anything, before you make a decision, right? I mean, before you make a plan, you have to have decided something. You had to make a decision. And this is reflected, right? In the clock I showed you all. You see here in the clock, gallbladder is before liver, right? So these hours, y'all, is when we're supposed to be sleeping as well, resting and relaxing. Because the aspect of the wood is all about, the nature is either to go forward or to retreat. And being able to regulate this, when do we go forward? When do we retreat? Kind of like what Francisco was talking about, what this time was, right? It was like, do I just go into the cave, or do I continue to interact with the world? Do I continue to go forward? And what is it that keeps us going forward in this time? Or what is it that makes us want to just retreat? And so there was a lot of that back and forth, at least for me. And decision-making should be effective. It must come from a clear, intuitive understanding of what is best for oneself. Should decisions not be made first, there's this undue burden that's placed on planning. And I'm gonna go into that intuition later. I'm hoping that we can do actually a practice around cultivating our inner guidance systems. How do we differentiate the information that we are being given? So much information has been given to us. How do we come up with our own? How do we come up with our own understanding of what is occurring? We can only come up with our own understanding by looking within, by listening within, because we're hearing so many different things, right? And so when we look within and when we clear the mind, right, it has to be done with a clear intuitive understanding. It is then that we will get the answers. So we're gonna run through that. And anger is an emotion with an energetic direction. All of the emotions have directions. The direction of anger is to move upwards and ascend. So with people who with liver issues with that anger, there's a lot of ascending energy. There's a lot of rebellious energy coming up. And the wood phase, as I was talking about before, is responsible for our drive to grow. Kind of like what Fran was saying, like that time was about that drive to keep going, to keep growing and evolving. And its major functions is advancing, building, right? And retreating. So that time, the spring could have been about either one of those for us, about either advancing, going forward with what we received, or retreating. And this next one here, this is one of the beauties. I love this picture because it just shows the beauty of the wood. Is that the wood will grow through anything. You see this here too, the wood growing right through the earth. Right through these bricks. No matter what, the wood is gonna go forward. It's gonna advance. So that's the psychological, aspect of it. It's manifested in decisions about whether one should pursue growth and development or retreat in order to detoxify. For many of us that live in cities, the ability to retreat is kind of off. That's what I see in the clinic. So a balance between the two is required, right? Otherwise, the constant advance will exhaust one's reserves and results, and resulting in collapse, exhaustion, kind of a forced retreat, where you like have to go and rest. You have no other choice. So wood is all about adaptation. What I was saying before, the flexibility. Think about the bamboo, right? The flexibility of that wood. But if you flex it too much, it breaks. But the flexibility of the wood, and we all, us capoeiristas, we work with this wood called beriba. And we can bend this wood and make an instrument from it. We can bend this wood and have it be tightened by a cord, not a guitar cord, but by metal. Again, there we go. We see metal again. Metal's involvement with wood. Metal holding the wood. Hey Salim! Well, go on, brother. So the capoeiristas on here know what I'm talking about, right? Is that we use metal to then hold the wood. So the flexibility of wood and the persistence allow it to get through anything. We see, look in these pictures, we see wood growing through metal, fences, concrete, stone, and in conditions with very little water or light. And this is the symbolic part of us that keeps going forward no matter what. Oh, one other thing is that liver and gallbladder are also the other aspect of the emotion. Of the positive aspect of the emotion is wrath. So anger is a distortion. So you can think about wrath as divine. What's that word when you're kind of not punishment, but not casting.
Like a karmic lesson? Or?
Yes, you could say that, like giving a divine lesson. So here, I'll give this example. So it's like your child is acting up, right? They're wilding out. They're out of order. Anger would be to slap them, right? That's the anger. That would be how wood, in a distorted way, would respond. But if you were to respond with wrath, is you would tell them a lesson. You would tell them something so strong that they would have to get it together, that you wouldn't need to slap them. So this aspect of the wood is in its divine manifestation and in its strength, the wrath, right? And we've all seen this. We see this in capoeira. We see this in our lives. Like instead of responding with anger, right? And instead of yielding, which wood is totally able to do, right? The wood can yield. The wood is flexible. Bamboo is flexible. The beriba is flexible. All these woods are flexible, but we can also respond with the wrath, right? And the wrath is something that takes cultivation. It takes a certain amount of development to be able to respond in that way that is strong enough to not hurt somebody, but have them get themselves together, because it speaks to that aspect of them. Any questions about the wood before I keep going? Y'all good? Y'all good. All right, hold up. What else did I want to say here? Oh, fire phase. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit into the fire phase because the fire phase is where we are now. Okay. The fire comes after the wood, right? Wood makes fire. I have a picture here of this place in Jamaica that's called Firewater. So at this pond, sulfur is bubbling out of the water, so much so that you can light a fire on it. You could literally so that's what y'all are seeing. So the fire phase, right? The energetic layer is about creating meaningful relationships and better understanding of oneself and the divine within. The fire phase the two organs associated with it are the heart and the small intestine. And the heart strives to establish purpose in one's life. The heart is also about communication. And to satisfy that purpose, maintaining enthusiasm and withholding judgment despite the challenges confronted in life. Right? So it regulates all emotions. The heart in Chinese medicine is the king. Traditionally, the fire phase follows the wood phase, as I was talking about, the birth and growth, and represents full growth. So we see here, I want to go back to the slide. I gotta find that slide for you. But we saw here with the, oh, look, right here, the fire is at the top. You see? So this is representing your full growth, your full potential. The heart is the king. And it represents the small intestine as well, which is an organ that is serving and connected to the heart. You know, people speak of heartburn, experiencing heartburn, but that's actually the small intestine that people are feeling discomfort in. So the small intestine is kind of a guardian, along with the pericardium and the triple burner of the heart. It's the whole system in Chinese medicine is likened to a government, and the heart is the king. The small intestine, all the others are ministers. Got me? And it represents our desire to, to develop our consciousness and communicate with others and be social, spontaneous, right? Be out there. It's all about going outward. The fire energy, as you can see here, is all about going out. And so that's what the summer is. And so we're in this time where, I don't know about you all, but it feels like the pandemic is over. It feels like it's ending, but it's not, right? We're still kind of in this quarantine, but for many, it's over, and this is because of what we're going through right now with the fire phase. We want to go outside. And the emotion is joy. It houses our consciousness and desire to communicate with being social, spontaneous, and enjoying life, but also representing the imbalance, right, of who constantly needs to seek and experience pleasure. That's the other aspect. That's the other imbalance of fire. So I just wanted to hit you all with those two. That's going to be it for now. I'd love to go more into these elements, but it's too much. Here we have metal. I was going to talk a little bit about the lungs, and this is water. This is the water phase, which is represented by the kidneys and the bladder, and the kidneys.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you go back to the metal phase? I want to get a picture. Yeah, thank you. 1 second, dude.
Yeah, and the metal phase is connected, with the lungs and the large intestine, and it represents our dealing with these aspects of, like, these instinctual aspects of life. The lungs are the only organ that are connected to the external world, right? Because we're breathing in air. Season is autumn. I really like to come up with a class where we can talk just about that. But this is the wood. I pulled up this one so you all could see how the earth is held by the wood. And the earth element is the mother within the 5-element system, right? It favors neither yin nor yang, and it nourishes all equally. The earth represents a transition between all seasons, where I said before, where wood is birth and fire is full growth, earth represents the harvest, right? Where one reaps everything one has sown.
Tagan, you're talking about doing a workshop like just on metal, you're saying?
I could totally do a workshop just on metal.
Cool.
Just on metal, but all these 5 elements. So I mean, just quickly, the earth's elements are, the earth's energies are in balance and enable one's caring and concern for others. You know, but out of that is the imbalance of earth is worry and overthinking and pensiveness. Yeah. So I got to talk about the subcon before we go into our intuition practice, intuition exercise. Is the functions of the subconscious are done automatically, right? We have the conscious mind and the subconscious, and the subconscious is capable of many different functions, many different things. The subconscious is in charge of all the parasympathetic functions in the body: digestion, breathing, eliminating, the heart beating. And so if we are what we eat, then all that we consume affects us vibrationally. And this aspect of the subconscious, which is kind of only accessible through the conscious mind, it's this balance, right? The subconscious mind is capable of a multitude of things. The conscious mind is only really capable of one thing, right? Analyzing. However, to access the subconscious mind, we have to use the conscious mind. And the subconscious mind, you can say that the ritual in order to program the subconscious mind is working through ritual. And to work actively with the subconscious mind is doing practices. So I have a ritual for you all that I'm going to give you all at the end. But if we can think of the mind like a computer, ritual is how we activate and energize the subconscious mind. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this in intuition exercise where we can sit and we're going to work on developing our intuition. So if you have a chair, I highly recommend not using the back of it, maybe coming to the end of the chair so that your back is straight. Or if you're sitting on the floor, that's good as well. Right? Because we're going to use the human brain, which is a computer, and use this ritual as the code to get results from the subconscious. So the first thing we want to do with cultivating our intuition is setting our intention. All right, so we can sit up straight, and we're going to set our intention here. And you can sit with these questions. What is uncertain for you right now? What questions are you sitting with? What is at stake? And if we don't take the steps we need to get there, what are the consequences for not doing that? And if you take the steps, what might be the consequences for yourself, for those around you? Let's just sit with this for a little bit. And we can set our intention by clearing our mind. After you ask yourself these questions, you can clear your mind. One tool that I like to use is to focus on one of the senses, preferably sound for me. Others are more clairvoyant. They might want to focus on an object. A friend of mine says that he sits with a candle and looks at just the flame of the candle. So taking this moment here just to clear your mind. Your back is straight. Inhaling through your nose. And exhaling through your nose. And on the inhale, allowing your lower abdomen to relax. Bringing your mind in to this present moment. To access our inner faculties. Feeling the sensation of the breath coming in and coming out. And listening to your calling. You know, your first calling will appear as a whisper, a gentle trickle, a still small voice. And you can ask yourself, what is whispering to you? What is roaring? What call is trying to be heard? Listening to the call. It comes through very quietly. And being able to distinguish that voice. Is that voice our shadow? Is that voice something that someone told us? Distinguishing these voices. Is that voice an ancestor? Intuition can be our compass. It can be like our phone line to something that's more than our conscious mind. This is what we're going to use to uncover vast amounts of knowledge for ourselves. It can teach and guide us. Maybe there's an internal sound or a visual stimulation, or just a feeling of inner knowing, or a felt sense. It can manifest in all these different ways. And once you start to feel any of those or more, once you're able to clear the mind and come to a place where you're feeling something, either a sound or a voice or a feeling, this can take some time. This can take some practice. And it is only after this, though, that we want to then ask a question. You can ask a question. So how do we ask a question? You know, you can make your inquiry as simple as, where am I right now in my life? What am I supposed to be doing? Whatever your question is valid. But determine your question, ask it, And then notice what arises. And be present to whatever arises. And be persistent. Don't let your mind take you to other places. Be persistent with your question and ask as many clarifying questions as you need. The key foundation for a strong intuition is a clear mind, concentrated and still. A mind that can become concentrated and still is a mind where we can receive our messages. One thing I like to do when I find thoughts coming in that are obstructing the voices is to just label them. You can say something as simple as thinking about dinner, thinking about someone, thirst arising, and put them all in a context of arising, as to not identify with any of them. So putting in a clear question is important, to be as clear and exact with this as possible, because the clearer the question, the clearer your answer will be. And listening to the answer and hearing what comes up, and even though it may not sound like what you wanted, I ask you to consider it. Consider it, even if you don't want to believe it. At least consider and acknowledge whatever comes up so you can work with it. However it appears. This aspect of it takes a while. So these practices of clearing the mind, making the mind concentrated and still, and then asking a question are two large steps within the process of cultivating a strong intuition. And for some of us, like for myself, the experience of just clearing the mind can take a while. Just clearing the mind and getting it concentrated and still, and being patient with yourself. So I just want to give you all these tools. Again, step one is to ask a question and identify whom you're tuning into, right? Because you could be tuning into an ancestor. You could be tuning into your higher self. In my lineage, the higher self is called your Ori, or your God. You can, or ask God, whatever God, however the source manifests to you. But you literally could ask an ancestor and determine your question with clarity, ask it, and then notice what arises. And before all of this, you must create a clear and concentrated mind still. And be persistent. Ask as many questions as you need and sit there as long as you need. Sometimes I sit with a pen and paper because things will start coming up, and I might want to write them down. But finding a time to do it, and a consistent time, whether it's in the morning or at night, whatever feels the best for you, and in a consistent place. So the place that we do this practice is important. A consistent time is great too. If you can make a consistent time and a consistent place, it's as if you're making a date. Literally, you're making a date with yourself, with your higher self. So these are the steps. And then there's the obstacles. The obstacles is doubting everything you receive. And if you do this, this will keep you from accessing information. And the information can appear just like how I said before, the information manifests in a felt sense. It can manifest as a thought. It can manifest as a feeling or a sound even. But doubting everything is like killing the messenger before they even have the chance to even speak. But some doubt is good, you know, to have good discernment, obviously, because you wanna know who's giving you the message. Is it your shadow? Is it your shadow, which is full of doubt, or is it a higher part of yourself? So always go with the route of least resistance. The discernment is critical when using intuition. So, you know, there are many voices inside of each of us, many voices with different qualities, different motivations, different capacities. And being able to discern what voice is speaking at any given moment is crucial. So this is a practice, as I said, and I've been engaging in this for the last couple months, and I can tell you all, it will help you to cultivate your own inner guidance systems. So if we can just spend a little bit more time off of our screens and then a little bit more time with ourselves, you know, this will help us organize our being and organize and cultivate our purpose, because this is what we're looking for. This is a time to reassess our purpose. And this can come through intuition. And it is important to remember that there's always a good chance, right, that your shadows, biases, your wounds, and desires could be coloring what you receive as messages. So being able to discern through those. And in this process, you can become to distinguish and identify the voices, but you've got to spend time with them. You got to spend time with it. And, you know, the funny thing about this process is some or many will stop because they're like, oh, ain't nothing happening. And sometimes just when you stop is just when something was about to be revealed to you. You know, just when it was about to come, you stopped. So it's an exercise in patience. And patience, check it out. Francisco knows this. Patience in Spanish means paciencia. Paciencia. So patience is the science of peace. Paz is peace. Ciencia is science. So yeah, y'all. That's what I got for you. And as I was saying before, it's important that we have some self-cultivation practices in these times. I got homework, right? This is it. I just threw it up on the screen. Continue to dialogue with your intuition and gather information about a larger view, right? You first want to go for the large view, your larger purpose of your life, what you're here for, who you are meant to do. What you're meant to do, what you are meant to be. And these can all be with notes too, right? You might want to sit down with a pad and pen and write these down when you go for it. And then gather information for the street view. And this might just be for the day, right? Like what are you sitting with right now? What is your path forward at this time? And what are the obstacles in your path right now? Take time to work on the street view. What opportunities to respond to the call are present? And what is that call? What is calling you right now? Right? Not what they're telling you, not what you're being told, but what is calling you within? What do you feel motivated by? What is calling you today? And last but not least, the ritual that I have for you all is what you're gonna do is, you're gonna take a glass of water. I actually wanted to do this at the beginning and didn't. But what we could do is that we take a glass of water, right? So you got your glass of water, right? And you could hold your hand over your water and you say a prayer. So water, the same water that is here on earth has been around forever. So water is a conduit, is a vehicle to spirit. So you wanna take your water, and this is how we're gonna start to ritualize our lives, right? By ritualizing our life, we can start to see the sacred in the little things, in the everyday things, like drinking your glass of water. So you're gonna take your water, right? And you're gonna place your hand over your water and you say, first you want to say who you are and also say who your parents are. So like for instance, let's say, I'm gonna do an example. Let's say I am speaking to my ancestors. So I'm gonna say, honored ancestors, I come to you on this day. My name is Taganyahu Swaby, son of Juliet Hart, son of Noel Anthony Swaby. And I ask for XXX, whatever you're asking for. I ask for clarity, I ask for focus. Please energize me, give me the energy that I may be able to speak clearly to the ones who I come across in life. May I see good and call it good. May I see bad and call it bad. May I not see good and call it bad, and may I not see bad and call it good. You know, you can create whatever your prayer is, but you want to do this before you drink your water in the morning. So this is the first water, or this is all water. But you're asking either source, either God, whatever you consider sacred for you. I'm not going to tell you what that is. I would ask you to work with your higher self, which is what we call our Ori. So that higher self is your God. That is the God of you. It's not even connected to any religion, right? So when we speak of spirituality, we want to know that spirituality is based in experiences, not what someone else told you. The way we learn about spirit is through experience. So I'm offering you all this practice so that you all see the results over time. So do it over time. Say your prayer into water every time you drink water. And then before your meal, again, one thing that we like to do in my tradition is we take a little bit of each food that we're eating and put it aside for our ancestors. And again, place your hands over your food, say your prayer. Then at night, when you go to bed, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a bowl, and I actually can email you all this, but simple practice, you're gonna take a bowl of water. For those who have issues dreaming, you can take a glass of water and put it by the head of your bed. Okay, and any bad dreams or any dysfunction in the dream realm will go right into the water, right? Any spirits that visit you will go right into that water. However, if you are trying to ask for a message, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a bowl, place water in it, and then put that bowl and pray to the bowl. You're gonna hold the bowl like so. You're gonna pray to the bowl, right? And you're gonna say, again, announce who you are, and ask for whatever it is that you're having challenges with in your life. And whatever you're having challenges with in your life, you're gonna ask that spirit or that source or that aspect of yourself, your Ori, to make themselves clear in your dream. Because in the dream is where you will receive the message. Ask them to come to you, ask them to speak to you with clarity. And once you've said that, you're gonna place that water, that bowl, underneath your bed. Go to sleep, and then in the morning, you're gonna take out the bowl and pour it into the toilet and flush the toilet. And I'll send this all to you in writing. So those are two things to do, right? To start to create ritual. And as we were saying before, that ritual is the code to access the subconscious. And we can do these rituals, and we can do this with everything we do, right? To begin making everything sacred in our lives. Giving meaning to all our endeavors, right? And recently I want to share you all with this. You know the word prior? Prior means before, right? Prior to that, he was blah, 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 blah. But prior and prayer have basically the same exact sound. Have you all peeped that? Prayer, prior. So prior means before. Prayers mean before. So if we pray before we do anything, we are making that act sacred. We are making that act special, whatever we're doing. And so giving this sanctimony to all of our acts will make us more spiritual. All of our experiences will be that way. I tell my students, before you go and play capoeira, pray. Before you practice anything, pray. Pray for success. All we have to do is ask for it. It's that simple, y'all. So our ancestors are watching over us. They want the best for us. They're with us in these times. These times, your ancestors are with you, and they want you to succeed. And they're working in the spirit realm for you. There's no time in the spirit realm. So that is the place to ask. And also recognizing opportunities to express gratitude. Gratitude for your life, gratitude for your body, to be able to practice what you do, to be able to sit here and receive teachings. Gratitude for the smallest things, for our food, for our privilege, you know, the lack of traffic in the street, the earth that holds us up, the rain, y'all. You know, people used to pray for rain. All of these things we gotta express gratitude for, you know, and ask that your life be filled with ease. Ask that your life be free from obstacles. Ask that your life, you know, be smooth. Pray before you get in the car. Any car, anybody who's driving should pray before you do that. Ask that your path be cleared of obstacles. Ask that your ride be smooth. If you're biking, Mahi, I know Mahi bikes everywhere. Before you get on your bike, pray that it all goes well. Pray that nobody hits you. Ask your honored ancestors. Ask your powers. You see, we have to recognize the freedoms that we have right now. You know, so there's a lot of protests and marching going around and asking for rights. We have to be in a place that we're not begging for it. We're not begging. We are taking on the freedoms that we already have. People want equity and justice and equal rights. We have to have those. We have to recognize what we already have and live in that and live in it fully. So yeah, y'all, intuition can be a compass. Intuition can be your guide, your phone line. Use it. Take time with it. Take time with yourself. And I just want to leave you all with this. I know I've gone over. You know, how can we help with the emergence and development of this new way of being that the earth is coming into, right? That we are coming into, the one that truly honors humanity, you know, because this is a realignment of humanity is needed. How can we begin to help with something as overwhelmingly difficult as this? There's a saying in Chinese medicine that a change has to have form. Right? You must change the function first, right? And as we change the physical alignment of humanity, this change in consciousness is going to follow. All right? So many of us feel that we've been stymied by this pandemic, but we've had this time to start waking up and to work on what our contribution will be, besides, you know, apart from our own learning. All right? So it's a great time. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all. I know I went way over. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Synergy. Thank you, Salim. You all got to unmute yourselves. I cannot hear you. But I just want to say thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Here.
Thank you, brother. I just shared with you guys too, like the place that we're gonna post the recording of Taganyahu's presentation. So you guys can see that.
Yes, and I want us to just close with this. Oh wait, before we close, does anyone have any questions? Y'all are great. Y'all are easy crowd. I mean, if y'all want to ask a question. Anyway, you all mostly have my email if you all, or text me if you have any other questions. But I just want to end with this. Oh, if you have a glass of water, it would be great to do it. If you don't worry. I have mine.
You just have mate.
You got mate?
Yeah, man.
All right. So
I got
okay, so here we go. And so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna do a little libation to end. Right? So here I got this plant and here I got the water. And we are gonna close. And I'm gonna close with these words. Honored ancestors of the East, Honor ancestors of the West, honor ancestors of the North, honor ancestors of the South, Spirit of Heaven, Spirit of Earth. Thank you so much for this conversation that we were able to have. May all that needed to be said be said. May all healing have occurred from the seen and unseen forces. May we walk in strength. May this conversation nourish us. And may this be a great day for all of us. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Oh,
Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Synergy. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Peace, y'all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was wonderful. It connected, it weaved the web from another workshop I took with you, and I still had the paperwork. So it was good. And I found
cool.
it with a lot of ease. So it was
Nice.
good to connect dots.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Nice. I'm grateful for you all. Thank you. Appreciate you all. Peace.
Grateful for you.
Yeah,
Peace.
and you guys, the Sunday Sangha is free if you guys want to come.
All right.
You know, it's the East Coast. Tomorrow's presenter is Maya Abreu. She's the Vice President of Cultural Enhancement for Yoga Alliance. And she's kind of like, she's the Vice President of Cultural Enhancement, but she's basically like she's the department. So I'm trying to like create more space to support her. And she's an elder, you know, she's been around a bit, and I'm excited to hold that space for her because she has a lot of frustration sometimes working in that organization. So I'm excited to hold that space for her, and you know, for her to provide us with really good information that can engage us more, and you know, in that yoga bubble that you know, kind of open it up to more people. But yeah, every Sunday Sangha is free, 1 p.m. Eastern.
1 p.m. y'all.
Can you please put the link like in the bio? Like, how do we access the Sangha?
The Sangha, you just go to synergy.yoga.
Synergy.
Yeah, I'll put it right now for you.
Or in the chat box, yeah.
Yeah, hold on one
And
second. What I did put in the chat box now was the where the blog is, where the recording of Tagan's presentation will go. I put that on there already. So you'll be able to go to that link and see the recording. I'm gonna stop recording now, actually.